Welcome into the latest episode of Starting 11 Podcast. My name is Emilio Pena, and I've got Grant Rowland here with me today. It's been another exciting weekend of football. We just got done watching both the Arsenal and Crystal Palace game and the Milan game with our guy, Christian Pulisic. But we're going to start off in England and talk about the Arsenal-Crystal Palace game. Arsenal getting the 1-0 win. Obviously, with a scoreline like 1-0, it's not the most exciting game to watch, so to speak, but there were some good points in there. Got the Odegaard goal and a controversial double yellow red card, as well as a controversial no call that went against Arsenal, which would have resulted in Crystal Palace potentially tying the game. That's probably the biggest talking point after the game. I thought it was a foul, but it was ultimately given away, or it was not given to them. But overall, I'd say Arsenal is picking up where they left off last season as far as, picking up 3-point after 3-point. There was some conversation prior to the game about the goalkeeper competition going on in Arsenal right now. So Ramsdale was able to keep that clean sheet and hold on to his job for a little bit longer. Grant, I know you were watching the Milan games, but primarily at least, but your roommate Danny, big Arsenal guy, so I'm sure you were flipping back and forth. Did you have any thoughts you wanted to share for this game?
I mean, not really. Crystal Palace looks pretty good. I know you had them as relegation candidates. One thing I'm noticing though across the league so far is the refs just seems like there's a lot of blown calls already early in the year. I don't know how much like preseason they do. I know they do the preseason games, but you kind of ref those differently. You let players play a little more because Barcelona played Arsenal in the US tour. It was super physical and kind of don't want to give out cards there because it's kind of pointless. It's just preseason, but it'll be interesting to see if that's a trend that just kind of continues throughout the season. Hopefully not, because like you said, I thought that was a clear pen. Obviously, they completely missed the one against Wolves in that United game. But yeah, I think that's my biggest takeaway so far. And I know like the rules have changed. Like Ter Stegen got a yellow card. We'll get into that game later, but for like swarming the ref or talking to the ref, but he was pointing at the captain's armband. So we'll see. But yeah, other than that, like you said, Arsenal kind of doing what they do earlier in the season. Big 3 points, even if it's a 1-0 win, wasn't super convincing against a Palace team. You kind of take those. So
100%. It was at Selhurst Park too, so able to cross that away game off the schedule and just look forward to facing them at the Emirates next time around. Transitioning to that next game, though, you were watching the Milan game, and pretty early into the game, I get a text from you saying like, absolute screamer from Christian Pulisic, which, to be fair, it was. That's his official Serie A debut for Milan. So off to a great start for him. He kind of had like, what do they call it, a hockey assist when it's like a pass to the pass. Yeah, so he had like the hockey assist for the first goal scored by Giroud. Both goals happening pretty early in the game. So off to a great start and his new club. Did you have any thoughts you wanted to share for that game? Any details that the viewers might want to get in for?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I'm a big Christian Pulisic defender. Some of it usually biased, but this time I'm gonna put the bias aside and like let's be honest a little bit. I think this is gonna be a breakout year for him. He's gonna prove to Chelsea and all the English fans. I kind of gave him some. Kind of don't want to swear on the podcast. Kind of gave him some a little bit of trash talk or whatever. Pretty consistently. Obviously, it's the rivalry, like England and US, whatever, but we're kind of the baby brothers in the sport. But playing out of position at Chelsea all those years, I mean, just like not really given consistent game time, runs of games, and Chelsea right now kind of struggling with that wide kind of creative position and kind of what he's going to do. I think at AC Milan this year, we got a glimpse of it. That link up with Giroud going back to the Chelsea days. Pulisic had that ball over the top to the fullback who crossed it over to Giroud, and then Pulisic goal, it was a little 1-2. Christian into Giroud, who laid it off. Christian took a couple touches and just shot a rocket in the back corner of the net. But this is what he's capable of. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Serie A is looking like a great move so far. He's fitting in the team. There was questions like how much game time he would play because he plays out primarily, we've seen, on the left with like mostly the national team because Chelsea played him in really strange positions. But with Leao there, but kind of playing in that cam role, a free role to kind of roam around the field. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better start for him. So really exciting. And we'll see Yunus Musa once he gets kind of adapted into the squad, see how he does. But so far, Serie A is been good for the American boys.
Rafael Leao stole that number 10 jersey before I get there, but Pulisic playing in that number 10 role beautifully.
Yeah.
You mentioned Chelsea and kind of their mismanagement of him throughout his time there. And I wanted to move on to their game this weekend because after the first match week, we're talking about Chelsea putting it all together and starting to look like the team that they should be. But, right when they were able to take a step forward, it seems like they always take 2 steps back. 3-1 loss to West Ham was 2-1 for a good chunk of the game. And then, our boy Moises Caicedo gave up a penalty in, 60 seconds before the game ended, and disastrous nightmare debut for him. It is a debut, so it's all up here for him, so to speak. Hopefully it doesn't get worse. Definitely not the start of the season Chelsea fans are wanting. I think they're sitting either 15th or 16th in the table. Granted, it's 2 games, so that's going to change a lot, but it just doesn't seem like it's working for Chelsea. It's a work in progress, so I want to give them some time, but it just seems like it's a bunch of like cogs just in the wrong holes, at least. I don't know what to expect. I think I had them finishing 5th or 6th, getting that Europa League spot, which I think is still possible, but man, do they have a lot of work. Does Pochettino have a lot of work to do for them?
Yeah, I mean, first off, like because we watched the game together, they did the opening lineups and like the bench and stuff. I don't even know who half of these players are. And then on the commentary, they're like, "Oh yeah, Chelsea bought this player for 60 million in the window." I'm like, dude, where?
Right.
What is this spending? Like,
I had no idea who Disasi was.
Yeah, who are these people? And it's like an ever rotating team. I mean, there are players that I feel like last week were in the squad and now they're not, and there's like no sign, like haven't heard any like thing about like an injury or something with them, so that's really weird. But yeah, Caicedo, rough game. Chelsea overall, rough game. They looked pretty good in the beginning and they just kind of fell apart. I don't know if that's just like historically how Poch teams have been, because that's kind of how Tottenham was outside those like couple glory years. But they really, when you look at the bench, like attacking, when you think of spending £1 billion on players, you would think, oh, if like our starting lineup, like we have a few players not really producing on the attacking end. Surely they have some talent on the bench that can do something, but like the Mudricks of the world, just pretty much useless. Pace merchants, as they call them on FIFA. Raheem Sterling, at least, I guess that's a silver lining in all of this. Looked like Man City, Raheem Sterling. He was creating a lot, but just no one to get on the end of those chances. Enzo Fernandez stepping up to take that pen, kind of weak, kind of to the left side if you're facing goal, kind of easy block there. But yeah, it's strange to me that a guy that's been there 6 months and as a midfielder is stepping up to take your pens. But yeah, Chelsea just have not been successful signing a center forward, and we were making jokes about it, but it is kind of true. Like Lukaku's still on that team. I think we'll ever get to see him, but it just goes to show like the money they paid for him, what they're paying on wages, and like he's just gonna like sit on the bench. I haven't even seen pictures of him in training, so they're just paying players to pay players. So kind of a mess right now. Kind of a mess.
I think kind of a mess is a little bit of understatement, but I'm just giving you a hard time there. But yeah, no, like you said,
I don't want to like overreact. Like you said, like there's talent in the team, and I don't 2 games in want to be like, here's another disaster season for them. But like you said, it's like, yeah,
if they're like if they're like not in the top 10 by like Halloween time, then I think it's time to start worrying about Chelsea, because Halloween, that's 2 good months to, I mean, I don't know what kind of international break is in between there, but that's still 2 good months to shore things up and to find some kind of like just a purpose, like play with a purpose. It seems like it's a bunch of cogs, like I said, and the midfield's strong, and some of the wingers are showing some good signs. But once you get into that final third, there's no striking any fear into the opposition. Erling Haaland strikes fear into the opposition, even when he's not, getting any shots on target, like we saw against Newcastle. Like he's still striking that fear into the opponent. I don't know how you're Chelsea and you spend all this money and you can't spend a good figure on a center forward, a striker, the 2 most expensive midfielders in British history, expensive players actually in British history. Like, why not just dish out 100 million for one of these strikers? Like I think Kolo Muani just signed with PSG. There's Osimhen is obviously still with Napoli, but I'm sure for the right price they'd be willing to get rid of him. Obviously, Kane wasn't an option, but there's definitely options out there for them to go after. But instead, Nicholas Jackson, their choice, and not the greatest performance from him. He just does not look confident when it comes to taking that shot onto the goal. Obviously, Nkunku's injured, but even he's not like a true like 9 that strikes fear into the opposition. He's more of like a attacking midfielder or striker combo almost. But yeah, I'd say Halloween time, we got to start keeping an eye out on where Chelsea's at in the table. One of the things I think that was most frustrating for me watching that game was like, where was that the week before against Liverpool? Like against Liverpool, the second half, they were really dominating possession, and it seemed like it was their game to win eventually, but it was a draw. Liverpool was able to bounce back, but early in the game, you wouldn't have thought so with that abysmal, shaky defense that is continuing on from last season. It seems like letting the goal in for Bournemouth 3 or 4 minutes in could have been 2-0 if that offside call wasn't called less than a minute in. But, the Reds were able to bounce back. My biggest takeaways from the game are both the impact of the 2 midfielders that have been brought in over the summer. Dominic Szoboszlai looks like an absolute stud. Looks like the next Kevin De Bruyne for the Premier League. And then McAllister also doing great, kind of playing out of position in this like defensive mid role, but unfortunately he was sent off with that red card. Kind of a questionable call. Liverpool has officially appealed the decision, so we'll see if he's able to play on Sunday against Newcastle, because that's a very big game, and Liverpool will certainly need him.
Yeah, and again, like you said, I completely forgot about this, but I'm glad you brought it up. That's just another like wild referee decision that because and it wasn't even like a second yellow red. It was just a straight red on a 50-50 ball that like maybe he got there a little late, but didn't go through him, just kind of tapped his foot. Kind of ridiculous, but I texted you this, I think last night, whatever. Maybe it was like an Instagram message. We were talking about soccer, but I'm so glad that Szoboszlai is getting the recognition, because dude's been a baller.
You were on him early.
Yeah, back in the Salzburg days, and I was just waiting. I can't believe it took until now for someone to sign him, but I know I've had my beef with Liverpool in the past, but you being a Liverpool fan definitely has maybe not support Liverpool, but
you not want him to lose every week, like maybe in the past.
Yeah, like it's like a support the homie thing.
Right.
And like if it yeah, exactly. There you go. And it's better, obviously, than going to Chelsea. So love to see good players go to my friends' clubs, even if, I don't know, potentially it's a Dominic Szoboszlai game winner against Barcelona in the Champions League final in a couple years. It's going to hurt, but it happens. Man. But speaking of that game, though, Bournemouth signing Tyler Adams, $20 million.
Yeah. I think they probably could have used him against Liverpool. It would have, been some reassurance, maybe come off the bench or something, but run a little bit. He likes to get in people's heads too. So wouldn't have surprised me if he's just like kicking the ball away from Trent when he's about to take a free kick or something like that. But no, yeah. I think that'll be huge for Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth have American ownership too, so I'm sure that helps. Maybe it'll help the club get some support and just notoriety, just out of jersey sales or people watching the Bournemouth game when they'd rather watch the Arsenal game, because it's like, oh, let's support this American kid. So it should be exciting to see. Hope they can stay up this year, so that way he can stay in the Premier League again, or hopefully he's not just getting relegated 2 years in a row, or else that's going to really not look good for the Americans.
Honestly, if he stays healthy, that might be a relegation saving signing, because we've talked about it, because Liverpool kind of had interest, and I was a big fan of him going before you got Endo. He's not by any means like a Fabinho where, I don't know, he wins the ball, can hold it up a little bit and have super creative passes, but he does fly all around the field, wins possession, defends really well, really good engine, and he doesn't mess around, try to do any crazy Busquets where he's on ball, like doing drag backs or whatever. It's just get the ball, give it to someone who can create, dribble, do some ball progression, and just kind of a no-nonsense player. That's why he's a captain of the U.S., and I'm excited to see him back in the Prem. And hopefully, like you said, they can stay up. He doesn't get relegated twice. And I'm so scared to go in the Leeds subreddit, because they're probably not super happy with the other Americans' performances so far. I know Aronson's out on loan, and McKennie was pretty bad for them. And now Tyler, they loved him, and he's gone after a year, but what can you do? They're
just trying to find someone to blame for that relegation, which is unfortunate. But we're going to move on to the City and Newcastle game. That was kind of the showcase game on Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening for those across the pond. And that one, not a boring game, but low scoring, 1-0. I guess my real question for you regarding this game is, it seemed like there was a lot of hype going to this game about Newcastle. They were sitting first place after the first game just because of goal differential. But it begs the question, like, are we Are we a little too early on Newcastle? Like, do they still have a ways to go, or do you think that like they can like genuinely contend this season still?
I think they can contend, but it's just a really outside. Like they'll be around the title shot, I think, all year. Now, will they like be able to? Because I think those head-to-head matches against City and Arsenal are gonna like it's gonna kind of come down to those. I know everyone drops points at some point in the season, but those head-to-heads, like we saw last year, can really, especially late in the season, turn the tides your way or against you. But I think they lack just still working on that depth. Obviously, they have Tonali and Bruno in the midfield now, which is really nice. They can do some damage. It was interesting to see Tonali get subbed off. Don't know how much I agreed with that, but I think they're really lacking out wide. I think Trippier, probably their best option. I don't think Anthony Gordon or Almiron out on the wings do much. So getting some wide talent to help Alexander Isak would be nice. But yeah, I thought Phil Foden was really impressive. I think that fills in for KDB really well. I did say like if Phil can stay healthy and City can just continue to do what they've been doing the last, I don't know, 7 years, even without KDB, it might be time for him to leave the club and not by choice because City are pretty ruthless about that. It's like, it doesn't matter what you've done for us. Like the second you're not producing, like we're going to get you out of here. So definitely going to keep an eye on that because he's out for like 5 months. But yeah, like you said, not a boring game, but definitely like not the expectations I had. I thought a couple more goals, some more just like get out of your seat moments. Holland again, not really doing much in a big game. So yeah, but good game. It was at City too, so it's hard to 1-0
Right.
loss at City for Newcastle isn't the worst result in the world.
And you mentioned that Phil Foden was kind of playing in that like Kevin De Bruyne role. I don't know if you noticed, but Manuel Akanji was kind of playing in that like John Stones like center back midfield role too, and that was really interesting because he said that he had never really like played in midfield before, but he joked that said this is like my fifth new position at City. And it's just remarkable the ability that Pep Guardiola has to instill the confidence in his players to play these positions where they may have never played before, and then they go out and perform really well. So I just wanted to highlight that part because that was super cool to me. But I did want to move on to the Spurs and Manchester United game because that was another pretty fun one over the weekend. One of the things that like was circulating around online afterwards was Roy Keane. He was saying that Manchester United are the new Spurs, and I mean he's like a pretty grizzly guy, so like for him to say that about his own former club, like that's how you know it's not looking good for him.
Yeah, I think he said it was something along the lines of like the worst compliment I can give United is being the new Spurs. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to, like you said earlier with Chelsea, it's early in the season, but like these games obviously are really important because once you like get your stride going and start, I don't know, playing like you're in mid-season form or whatever, these early games could be like the difference between being in the Champions League and potentially not even getting a European competition next year just because how tight the Premier League is going to be this year. But yeah, like we said, I think we've said, I don't even know how many podcasts in a row, just not consistent United. I'm not sure. I kind of don't have any thoughts in my head about them because I'm not even sure they know kind of what they're doing. But the new era of Spurs off to a really good
Yeah.
start. Yeah, Morgan is obviously really excited. Again, another kind of disappointing game from Richarlison, but hopefully they can get him going. But even outside of that, Basuma,
Yeah.
yeah, it was Basuma,
And
right? Back
Sar.
to back mana. Yeah, back to back man in the matches. Revamped midfield. Hoyland was available. Obviously, he was a regular starter last year and didn't even need him. Madison looks like an incredible signing. Yeah, and
Oh,
then
I
just
think you mean Hoiberg.
yeah, Hoiberg.
Because in my
What did I
head, I was
say?
like,
Did I say
Hoyland.
Hoyland?
Yeah. I was like, wait,
Oh,
which
okay.
team are we talking
Well,
about?
it was
My
United.
fault. My
Yeah,
fault.
no. Yeah, Hoiberg. I can't even. Now I'm like, I don't know. When you think about something too much, you just like can't say it correctly. But
You said he was
yeah,
healthy and they didn't even really need him, which is, he was a key contributor the last couple of years, it seems like.
yeah. And he said, at least at like Morgan, obviously watching as probably more Spurs games than I do, actually for sure. Said like he was one of the like most important, like very key player last year, and just this new era of Spurs football is pretty exciting. Hopefully they can keep it up. And again, they need to get Richarlison going because I could see some problems arising with Richie not getting going. And then it's pretty easy to lock down Son, kind of focus, keeping him tame and that kind of takes out 2/3 of your field, and it's all coming through Kulusevski and Madison from kind of deep lines, kind of over the top. But we'll see. Good start. I mean, if I'm a Spurs fan, not complaining. Obviously, no European football, which is good in this case because they can just purely focus on the league and focus on that competition. So
Yeah, and with the way they're
I'm
playing, maybe
excited.
they'll be in Europe next year with the way.
Yeah,
Um,
FA Cup run.
yeah, right. We need that Spurs trophy left at the end of the season just to completely like embellish these memes about like how it's Harry Kane has been cursed and not Spurs.
Yeah,
And I completely forgot to put it down in the rundown, so I feel like we should just pivot to it real quick. But like Harry Kane debuting for Bayern, goal and assist both.
hmm
So great debut for him. The ceiling's got to be, well, I mean, the expectation rather is to win the league for sure. And I feel like for them, I mean, it's only been one game, but I feel like the expectation for them has to be like Champions League final at least. Maybe not. I mean, they're going to say they want to win it, but like getting there, that's great. I think that's what you got to do if you're a Bayern fan. Like that's where you got to be going. So
yeah,
last year they were
absolutely.
solid, but they just couldn't finish. Choupo-Moting was their best striker.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting if like Kane is the solution because I don't know, they did kind of look shaky a lot of times last year, but I think still with like the talent in the squad and you have Tuchel who's obviously won pretty much everything. There is no excuses with that kind of squad and like I hate to say it, but like how easy the Bundesliga is this year.
Hmm.
I mean, a lot of talent left Dortmund this year. Leipzig might be a problem, but still, they had four massive key players kind of leave them. So you should run away with the league. They do play four less games than the other big
Hmm.
leagues as well, because there's one or two less teams in the league. But yeah, I do think it's like Champions League. Obviously, the draw plays a big factor in injuries, but assuming everyone's
100%.
healthy, yeah, I agree. I think semifinals, like minimum, like finals is kind of the expectation.
Now, getting back on track here, I wanted to actually go back to Manchester United because this kind of relates to the next topic. There was the controversy last week with Wolves and United, and I wanted to read this quote from Bruno Fernandes after the game because there was a controversial no call in the United game as well, and that went in favor of Spurs. And the quote from Bruno says, "It's a clear penalty. I want to see if John Moss, who is the manager at the Premier League's referee governing body." He said he wants to see if John Moss also comes to apologize to our dressing room like they said they did to the manager of Wolves. I'll be sitting here and they can come. This isn't the first time we've talked about Bruno Fernandes crying and complaining about referees. Um,
Yeah.
he said he's waiting for an apology. I wonder if the referee that he shoved last year against Liverpool is still waiting for an apology because he's the last person to talk about treatment from referees and this, that, and the other. But I just wanted to touch on that because we're talking about poor refereeing and all that. And second week in a row, we're watching Barcelona versus Cadiz this time. And it seems like Barcelona, anytime they're going to play anybody that's not the most quality team, it's just going to be very physical, and the refs are going to let the other team get away with a lot more than they will Barcelona. And it's frustrating as a fan to watch because, like, sure, you might want to give them a slight edge because they don't have maybe the same level of talent. But I think Danny said something over the weekend. He kept saying like La Liga is going downhill. Those are the things I feel like that make it hard for someone who doesn't necessarily support a Spanish club to get invested in some of those games. There were a couple times where I just like would check the phone for some stuff because I was like, man, they're just passing it back and forth with no real purpose to it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, part of me obviously understands like the smaller teams, like you're doing whatever you can to scrape away like even a point out of those games because it gets real tight there at the bottom and the points the difference from Segunda Division and La Liga. But at the same time, it kind of ruins the goods of watching, like ruins La Liga, the entertainment part of it.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's completely understandable. And like you said, like the refs are playing a really big role in all this. It's going really downhill. And then this weekend, Getafe played Girona and they lost 3-0. And the manager came out and was like complaining about how they were getting carded every time they touched a player, but it wasn't, they're like, oh yeah, whatever. Like now we're getting carded for like being too physical. And obviously we saw Cadiz this weekend. There were a few times Louis again was just dropped doing nothing, less physical, like more of an open game, I guess. But yeah, they have some real problems to solve. And that's probably something you should take care of during the off season. But instead it's looks like it's and it probably won't be taken care of. Let's be honest, with the way La Liga is going, they're just going to say, "Oh no, you're just complaining, whatever." I don't know, super frustrating, but it's something I got to live with. But yeah, it was nice to finally. I think that Pedri goal just like broke it open. Like it's that pressure of scoring that first goal of the year. I thought we were a little more fluid this week. Lamine Yamal, the 16-year-old, looked like our best player again, which is kind of concerning. But we do need to get Lewandowski firing because it was kind of another really quiet game from him. But 3 points, I'll take it, and hopefully the trend of just like better and better football every week continues, and we get back to the Barcelona we were last year.
No doubt. You did kind of mention that like you just needed to shake those nerves and get that first goal of the season, and it did kind of seem like after that happened, Barcelona was playing a lot more loose, and if that goal would have happened like 50 minutes in, I'm sure the floodgates would have opened up and it would have been 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. But a win's a win. 3 points is 3 points. Good to see Barcelona getting into that column there. Their rival, Real Madrid, also getting into another win there. And the only reason I bring that up is because Jude Bellingham scoring 2 more goals. So now he's got 3 goals into La Liga games. And it just begs the question, like, what is the potential? Like, how far can this kid go? Because I think he's either 19 or 20. He might have turned 20 at this point. Still, to be this composed, this mature, this intelligent at the age is just, I can't remember a situation like this personally.
Yeah. And honestly, what was his price tag? Like
120, I think,
120 million. That's looking like a steal compared to what other. I mean, Caicedo went for the same price, and you saw his debut in a league he's already familiar with, right, against, I wouldn't say like a lesser opponent, but like Real Madrid don't have that center forward. They are reliant kind of on those midfielders to score some goals for them because they don't have like a target man in the middle. So his role's ramped up. Obviously, we don't see the English abroad very much, and doing it in Spain, 2 games in, 3 goals. Yeah, it's really impressive. As a Barcelona fan, not super excited to see all those goals going in for him, but yeah, mega talented, and his brother too.
Joe.
He had a good game for Sunderland.
Sunderland, right? Yeah, he scored too. Yeah. The age thing too is like if Madrid can keep him for a decade or something, then like that 115 million is going to look like nothing. Especially when you think about what transfers are probably going to be like in 10 years. It's kind of scary to think about, actually. Like you said too, new league, new environment, new language, pressure, biggest club in the world arguably. So the pressure is mounting. You're their like prized possession this offseason. They could have gotten Mbappe, but they went for you. So definitely very, very impressive to see, and hopefully he progresses well into a mature adult, and then eventually takes his talents back to his home country and trades in his white for some red. Maybe we can get that to happen.
Yeah, maybe in the winter window, get him out of La Liga because.
Yeah, there was jokes, after Liverpool like went for Caicedo, like they were like, why didn't they just spend this money on Bellingham in the first place? One, Bellingham wanted to go to Madrid, so it wouldn't matter. Yeah. And 2, the only reason they were able to afford the money for Caicedo is because you get 50 million from Jordan Henderson and Fabinho in Saudi. So that was the only real reason that was able to happen. I just wanted to say that because it was kind of pissing me off seeing people say that. Like, don't you think we wanted Jude? But
yeah, exactly. Oh, also congrats to the Spanish women's national team.
Correct. Yeah.
World Cup winners. We saw that on the La Liga, but yeah, it was pretty insane story. Did you see?
Yeah, with the federation, the Spanish federation, he was like grabbing his crotch, and then he like kissed a player on the mouth, and they said they did not want that. So
and
it just sucks.
Again, like that's just littered through the Spanish federation, and I don't know. It's been years. Like Barcelona fans have been calling it out. I'm sure Madrid fans have, but obviously I don't like follow those pages, and just like nothing is being done. I don't know what else to do, but whatever. But there was a pretty cool story. Kind of sad too. The
player's father,
passed away during the game, and she scored what ended up being the winning goal for Spain.
Hopefully, he was able to see his daughter do that, though.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that gave me chills, kind of seeing that, and I don't know, just what an insane. I don't even know like how I would feel after that, but
yeah, I mean, you said that I got chills running down my body just thinking about it too. But again, like you said, congratulations to Spain. The United States will be back though, so enjoy it while you can.
Yep, enjoy it in the next 4 years, and then Argentina, my squad down there. You enjoy yours for the next 4 years because it's coming home.
Hopefully. It almost
Yeah.
came home literally on over the weekend, but
Yeah.
Even the English women are cursed too. It sucks.
Yeah, I did enjoy the memes about the English choking just at all levels of
Hmm.
anything. Granted, I think like their U21s won like the Euros or something, but
Yeah, but that's because they had
regardless.
Curtis Jones on the team.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. No, but no, it was a great week of football. A lot of stories going on. So thanks for tuning in again, and we'll catch you guys next week.